everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Stacy. Today we're going to do LeetCode number 14 question, longest common prefix. First, let's look at the problem. In this problem, we are asked to write a function to find longest common prefix string among an array of strings. If there is no common prefix, we will return an empty string. Let's look at the following two examples. In the example 1, as we can see, the longest common prefix is FL. As for the example 2, there is no common prefix, so we return an empty string. There are some clarifications we could ask if we had this question during interview. For example, could the string array be null or empty? Could the string be null or empty? Or if all the letters in the string are lowercase English letters? Those are all good questions to communicate with the interviewer. Apparently, in this question on LeetCode, it tells us all the strings are lowercase English letters, so we don't have to care about that. Next, let's look at the algorithm together. Because we are given a string array in this problem, so some people may think to use a for loop to traverse the array and then compare each string one by one to find a common prefix. Let's use this example to go through the algorithm. First, when I is 0, we only have flower, so the common prefix is flower. Then I is 1, we come to float. The common prefix of flower and float is FLOWE. Then I is 2, we come to flow. The common prefix is flow. Next, I is 3, we come to floor. At this moment, the common prefix is FLO. Finally, I is 4, we come to the flight. Then compared to flight, we got the final longest common prefix is FL. So this algorithm, we call it as horizontal scan. And it's quite straightforward. But if you look at the process again, you will realize we did some extra work. For example, we compared letter E and letter W at the beginning, but they were removed from the common prefix in the end, because string like flight and floor doesn't have them. So is there a better way that we can only compare the letters we have to? Of course there is, which is the vertical scan. So what is a vertical scan? Remember just now for the horizontal scan, we basically traversed array and compare each strings one by one. Well, here for vertical scan, we compare character with same index of each string one by one. Let's use this example to see how it works. First, I is 0. We check the character with index 0 of each string. It's all F, so the common prefix is F. Then I is 1. We check the character with index 1 in each string. It's all L, so the common prefix becomes FL. Then I is 2. We check the character with index 2 in each string. It is letter O in the first 4 strings. However, in the 5th string flight, the character with index 2 is I, so it's not part of the common prefix. Till now, after 3 iterations, we find our final result, which is FL as the longest common prefix. After going through both algorithms, let's summarize a little bit. As you can see, we use 5 iterations to find the final result when we do horizontal scan, while we only use 3 iterations when we do vertical scan. Obviously, vertical scan is more efficient. If you count the characters, you will realize we compared 23 characters in vertical scan, but only 15 characters in horizontal scan. For the average case, vertical scan is better since we compared the least numbers of characters we have to. But for the worst case, they are the same, because the worst case is each string in the array is exactly the same. So in order to find the longest common prefix, we have to go through each character, no matter which algorithm we use. Since vertical scan is better for average case, let's look at a solution for that. Before we look at the code, here are a few key points I'd like to remind you. First, we use string 0 as a starting point, which means for each iteration, we will first get the character at index I of the string 0, and then compare it to the following strings. The second point is we need to do the boundary check. Let's look at this example. We just changed the middle string flow to FL. The first iterations will be the same. For the third iteration, when it comes to FL, there is no character with index of 2 because the length of FL is 2. So at this point, we find our final result, which is FL, and also reminds us to do the boundary check before we access any character in the string. The third point to note is stop position is not part of the prefix. For example, here when I is 2, we stop the iteration because we found a character that is not part of the prefix. Then it comes to the substring function. The end index is excluded in the substring. So the final result could be represented as string 0 dot substring 0 to I, because I is not part of the prefix and I is excluded in the substring result. The last point is, what do we do if we finish the scan? Let's look at this example. We put FL as the first string. So we first check F, it is part of the prefix. Then L is part of prefix. And then we finish the first string. So what's the result here? Apparently, the result is just a string 0, because each character of string 0 is part of the common prefix. Now that we take care of all the key points, let's look at the code. First, we check if the array is null or empty. If it is, we just return an empty string. Then we use a for loop to traverse each character of the first string. We use string 0.char at I to get a character. And then we use the second for loop to compare with the following strings. Please note J starts with 1 because we use string 0 as the baseline. Next, we check if the character of index I of the following string equals to character C, but be sure to do the boundary check before that. If any of the condition is qualified, we can stop the iterations and return the result, which is strings.substring 0 to I. Remember, I is not part of the prefix, and I is excluded in substring function. Finally, if we finish the scan of the first string and didn't return in the middle, that means our result is just the first string, because each character of the first string is part of the common prefix. Alright guys, here's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching. I'm Stacy. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!